Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the PDPreps podcast. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had good holidays. Gus Morris, Kienan O'Doherty joining you again here. It is January 2nd, 2024. We have a good pod for you guys this week. All basketball coming up this week. So we're going through our first rankings of the new year, boys and girls. We're going to take a look at the last couple weeks of tournaments. I think it's been a couple weeks since we've had a pod. Didn't have one last week because of holidays, vacations, things like that. So we'll talk about our takeaways from the Sonoma County Classic. Another good edition of that this year. Both of us were out there checking some of the games out. We'll touch on some of the tournaments from the week prior as well. Kienan Memorial, which was the Casa Grande tournament a couple weeks ago. We'll take a look at our rankings this week. I think I already mentioned that, and then we'll kind of turn our attention forward as well with league play really kind of getting up and going here in the next couple of weeks. NBL Oak, NBL Redwood really kind of starting to ramp up here in January. So, Keenan, should be a good pod. Just want to start though. Good, do you have some good holidays? Anything fun to report? I guess from the last couple of weeks in December.
Yeah, no, it was a good holiday season. We were contemplating doing a pod last week for those who were clamoring for a pod, but we were like, it's holiday season. Christmas was on a Monday. We normally record these on a Tuesday. We're like, might as well give the fellas a week off. But it was a good holidays. Crazy that we're already in the new year, already in 2024. The fall season went by in a flash, and already in the winter season in full swing. Let's get it going fully into hoops and soccer and wrestling, all that good stuff, Gus.
Oh yeah, moving right into it. And then a quick scheduling note too is that we are still working through all of our All Empire, all Press Democrat teams here for fall sports too. So again, just with the holidays and especially with St. Vincent football kind of going so long, definitely cut into some of the time that we would normally have to prepare a lot of that stuff. So we're getting those things finished up. I think we should, we're aiming to have football stuff, I think, out hopefully by the end of this week. Football teams, player of the year, offensive player of the year, all that good stuff. So stay tuned for that. And then we'll be rolling up the rest of the teams here as well, kind of, once we get football out. So volleyball, cross country. Yeah.
But you can blame St. Vincent football for the delay if you want. I know the St. Vincent
just had to go and win a state championship and extend the season by 3 weeks.
I know exactly.
Killing us here. Man.
I know.
All right, diving right into the pod this week. We're going to get things kicked off here with our basketball rankings. I believe this is our third rankings of the year. We'll start off with the boys. No surprise, staying in there at number one, Montgomery. They've been number one all season. They've been playing great the last couple weeks. Again, we'll kind of touch on all these teams here in a moment, kind of once we get through all the rankings. But number two, Cardinal Newman, coming off of winning the Sonoma County Classic. I think it's the fourth straight year they've won it or something like that too. So Newman playing well. Number three, Petaluma. They were number three last week in our last rankings. They're staying put. Third place finish in the Classic. Only losses to Newman. Number four, Justin Siena, a bit of a quieter week for them, just a couple of games, but they're off to a good start. We had some questions about how they would look, with all their guys graduating from last year, but 9-2 to start the year. I'd say it's a pretty good start. American Canyon. In at number five. Last week they were number six. Ukiah was last week's number five, but they went 0-3, kind of surprisingly, I guess, at the Classic. So they have dropped out of this week's rankings. American Canyon was off last week, but again, because Ukiah drops, American Canyon slides in there at number six, or at number five, sorry. And then Pioneer coming in at number six. Last week they were not ranked. They had actually dropped out the week prior. They're back in there after a good showing at the Classic. Gave Newman a pretty good game in the championship, which we'll talk a bit more about here in a second. And then sticking at number seven, St. Vincent, 15-0 to start the year. They just won, I believe, their second or third tournament of the season. They were out at the Waterford Winter Classic. Which a bunch of smaller school teams, but St. Vincent has been kind of cruising right now. 15-0. They're heading into league play this week. Big game against Ukiah. Kind of the top two teams in that division coming up on Friday. But that is our top seven. Like I said, Ukiah dropped out. and sitting there on the bubble in alphabetical order here. So this is in no particular order, but Annalee, Maria Correa, Santa Rosa, Sonoma Academy, Ukiah, Vintage, and Windsor are kind of all their knocking on the door of getting in. But yeah, Keenan, I mean, it's not a whole lot of stuff has changed in the last couple of weeks. I think things kind of played out pretty chalky in the SoCo, and especially, I mean, I was definitely very impressed with Montgomery last week in the Bombauer tournament down at Marin Catholic. Kind of a cool tournament. They have 16 teams instead of 8, so all the teams play 4 games. It's over 4 days. I don't think there are many tournaments like that. I think here in the Bay Area, so kind of a cool little thing to finish out the year. But some good teams in that tournament. Monty beat Heritage by 20. They got a really good win over Ignacio Valley, who was some like 6'8", 6'9" guys. And then they beat Marin Catholic in the 5th place game to close out the week. But yeah, kind of sandwiched in between there was they lost to Miramonte. Kind of a bit of a surprising loss, I'd say. Miramonte was not very good last year, but they've definitely kind of reloaded and rebounded a bit this year. But yeah, Monty. I mean, again, you saw them play in the Newman game, I think a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, again, much to Steve Arrow's chagrin, we are keeping them here at number 1. He does not like it when we say that they're the number 1 team, but we are unbiased observers here. So Montgomery so far has been, I think, the most impressive team in the area to start the year.
No, 100% agree, and I think if you haven't already, you need to buy. And I think I saw a tweet that said this too, but you need to buy some stock in Kienan DeVries, because he has started the year absolutely on fire. Probably the top or one of the top players in the county, and it's quickly establishing himself as one of the better players maybe in the Bay Area as well this year. He has been Monty's go-to guy on offense pretty much every game. I know Monty has some complimentary pieces there that help him out, but when it comes to Monty needing something or showing up almost every game, it's Kienan DeVries. So he's been the anchor of that team. He's going to continue being the anchor of that team as long as he stays healthy, knock on wood, obviously. But he's a huge reason why Monty has this early season surge. And as long as he's still has his game going, Monty's going to most likely be the number one team, unless they lose. So
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, Kienan DeVries, he's establishing himself as quickly as one of the top players in North Bay for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably the top player in Sonoma County right now. I mean, there are all obviously in Marin, which does still count as Sonoma County, or as the North Bay. Like Branson, they have a couple D1 guys down there, and Radwood has some good players too. But Caden's just been lights out up here. So yeah, I mean, at this point of the year, Monty's only 2 losses. One of them came against Campolindo. I think that was even in overtime in the Peterage Classic, which is Montgomery's tournament to open the year. Again, kind of a the big challenge to kind of kickstart the year. And then again, losing by 3 points to Miramonte, who again is also a pretty quality team and is looking pretty good this year too. So but yeah, I mean, to your point though, I mean, Caden over the weekend, 14 points, 17 points, 20 points, 18 points in the 4 games. So yeah, I mean, I don't quite know what his average is right now, but I'm sure he's averaging like something like 15, 16 points a game at this point. For again, the number 1 team in the area. So yeah, Monty's looking really good. And again, we'll also have a bit more of like a league by league preview here too in a second. But I mean, I think it was Arrow or it might have been Newman head coach Travis Taylor who like made this point like a year or so ago, where it was like no team really gets through the NBL Oak unscathed at this point. Nope. Like every night's going to be a dogfight, and especially again, I mean, we had mentioned the Newman game just earlier, but yeah, 2 weeks ago, I mean, came down to the wire, and I think we talked about that one in our last pod, but. Yeah, I mean, Newman, kind of clutched it out, or sorry, Monty kind of clutched it out with like a, last second point after there was, trailing the whole game. So, good.
Sorry, but to your point, I honestly feel like every coach in the NBL Oak says an iteration of the NBL Oak is going to be a dogfight after every league game, anyways.
I know.
So
it's a good sign of a strong league, though, I guess. So, yeah. All right, moving on real quick to the rest of our rankings here, but yeah, Newman. I guess we can call them the surprise team so far of the early going. I mean, they had to replace Sam Klein and Gavin Vogensen and Drew Krilich last year. I mean, super young again this year. I think they have like 3 or 4 freshmen up on varsity. They have a couple sophomores who play a lot. They've definitely gotten better since their football guys have come back. And then again, the big shot in the arm that came back last week was their Cloverdale transfer, Tatum Kropinski. But 14-2 to start the year. The 2 losses, one of them came against Montgomery. The other one came against Urban, who's a very good Division IV team. That was in the Callan tournament, Casa Grande. And even that game, Newman was winning late and then just had some turnovers late, and it just kind of cost him down the stretch. But yeah, man, Newman 14-2. They had a great showing. It's at the Classic. They beat Christopher, a CCS team from Gilroy by 20. Total thriller in their second game against Petaluma, probably the game of the tournament, overtime win. And then you saw it, you saw them against Piner. But I mean, the one thing about this Newman team that it just seems like I've just seen this happen over and over again this year is they'll just kind of wear you out. Like they just play so hard and their guards move a ton, and it's just hard for teams. And they have a lot of depth too, I'd say. They can go like 7, 8 guys, I'd say. And even when it gets to crunch time, you can kind of slide in a couple other guys there, and it's like guys are stepping up to these bigger moments, especially these younger kids. I mean, I was really impressed with AJ Cole and how he,
Yep.
freshman, and how he finished out the Petaluma game. I know he was great in the Montgomery game too, but it seemed like that was kind of how the Piner game played out too, right? Like it was kind of a rock fight, up until halftime, like good defense both sides, and then Newman just kind of gets some stops late, gets a couple buckets, and then they just kind of wear you down at the end. So I don't know. I mean, you were at the Piner game, the championship game, but I don't know. What was your takeaway from seeing Newman this week?
Yeah, well, it was interesting to see how Newman would respond, because Piner came out and hit him in the mouth. Their lead grew to as many as 7 at one point in that first half. Yeah, and he, it wasn't the same Newman that I saw during the Monty game, which was odd. But then Travis Taylor, known for making his halftime adjustments, they made adjustments and came out and matched that effort of Piner in the second half. And to your point, like, I mean, you put it perfectly there, Gus. They wore Piner down. They made more plays than Piner did in the second half. And it was, and yeah, I mean, yes, I agree with Tatum Kropinski being a huge shot in the arm, but I still think in the basketball that I've seen so far, by far and away, I think the most improved player I've seen is Diego Gonzalez Flores. By a mile. He's really turned it up this year. Considering that he's really their lone big time returner, except for Madi Kamara as well. Getting Madi Kamara back,
but like both of these guys are juniors though too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like Madi Kamara is 5'11" and out rebounding pretty much any one of Piner's dudes. Yeah. I mean, that
he plays like he's like 6'4". It's crazy.
Exactly. It's crazy. So there's a good balance on this Newman team, and I think it's going to take him pretty far. But that game against Piner kind of showed that how these young players and how this young team can really just respond and bounce back, and that's huge, especially with all these young guys on the team. Piner gave him a game. I mean, Piner's historic program. Mike Erickson's always gonna do what he does, but Theo McDowell, those kinds of players that Piner has is definitely not an easy out. And obviously we'll talk about that more during the previews and stuff. But yeah, the way I was really pleased with the way Newman responded in the championship game there, and shows that they can respond to adversity, and I think you kind of saw it in the Petaluma game too, no? A little bit.
No, for sure. I mean, that was the Petaluma game was certainly it was a pretty wild finish. I'm trying to rack my brain here. I mean, again, we just had New Year's, so I'm like still a little fuzzy from all that, but the Piner or the Petaluma Newman game was really good. It was decided late. Andy Bai, who we'll talk about him in a minute, but he's been fantastic for Petaluma. he was fouled with no time or with like 2 seconds left in regulation, down 3, made all 3 free throws, even though even after Travis tried to ice him. It was pretty funny. He made the first 2 free throws and then Travis called timeout, like total like icing the kicker type of vibe. It was great. I love the strategy there, but made all 3, sent it to overtime. And then I think he hit like a mid-range jumper early on in overtime, and that was like the only points that Petaluma would score. So Newman really kind of buckled down like late, but Andy's just been having an amazing season. Probably averaging closer above 20 points a game. But the kind of issue though in the Newman game for Petaluma though, I'd say was Elliott Blue, who's like kind of I believe he was a first team all league returning guy last year. Kind of big, strong forward type of guy, really good inside, mid-range game. I think he was dealing with some kind of illness, so he wasn't playing 100%. So, I think the final score was like, was it 48-45, and Andy had like 27 of the points for Petaluma. So he just didn't get a whole lot of help, that night. But yeah, Newman, this is the second time. So again, Petaluma's 12-2, and they're number 3 in our rankings. I guess we'll kind of just move on to them. But both of those losses have come against Newman. One of them, I think they lost by 7 in the Rose City championship game, Newman's tournament, and then this one, they lose by 3 in overtime. So Petaluma is legit, man. We knew that they'd be good. They had 4 or 5 starting seniors. A bunch of these guys are back from last year's team. Andy's kind of exploded a bit, to open the season right now. He's, scoring probably, like I said, 20-ish a game. But yeah, this is a team that, I think really has a very good shot to win the VVAL this year. Some of the games, even the College Park game, I think you caught the end of that one as well. I think there was probably a bit of some emotional hangover, I think, from the Newman game, because it was such a hard fought game. There was a really big crowd at that game too. I think one of the bigger crowds of the tournament, and it was just really cool atmosphere. And then, come back and have to play in a third place game, the next day, just kind of a disappointing spot. But they were down, I think, late, right? And then they rallied for a win over College Park, and kind of shows their, toughness and grittiness as well. So I would love to see, I believe Petaluma and Newman are also both Division II in the NCS. So I would love to see a rematch in the playoffs. I'm sure Anton, Petaluma's head coach, would love to see that. I don't know so much about Travis, just because beating a team 3 times in a year, especially a good team, is very tough hardest. To do. Especially like we saw last year with the Newman and Windsor, 4 games that they played. So I think it'd be a really fun rematch, but it would probably have to be some point later in the playoffs. But Petaluma's been great. Andy Bye's been awesome. Do you know what he had against College Park points wise?
I do. Give me 2 seconds.
Because I think he had
great podcasting here.
I know, because the 2 games that I saw him, the first game that they won over Ukiah, he had 28 points, and then against Newman he had 27.
Andy had 15 against College Park.
All right, still pretty good against. College Park was I'd say one of the better teams of the tournament too. So
yeah, that was. College Park is pretty fun to watch.
College Park was
all the back cuts they have had, and they have in their scheme and everything like that, that College Park game was crazy. It was. Petaluma was down for 3 quarters. Ended the third quarter 49-48. They were down by 1, and then Elliott Blue just kind of took over in the fourth quarter. And they ended up winning 62-61. Yeah. But the great response there in terms of that emotional hangover that you mentioned. That best way to respond there for sure for Petaluma.
Yeah. It's tough to come back from that one, but I will say the win that they had. I do want to talk about a bit about the win that Petaluma had over Ukiah too, because that was certainly so. At the time, last week's rankings, Petaluma was number 3, Ukiah number 5. Petaluma won 53-31, like 22-point blowout. Not, I think, what many people expected, but Ukiah tends to sit back in their I think it's a 1-3-1 zone, and they kind of make teams beat you from outside. And unfortunately Andy Bye beat them from outside. He second half, it seemed, I believe it was a pretty close game, I think, up until half, and then Andy Bye just kind of went nuclear in the second half. He was hitting like it seemed like every shot he was taking, every three was like he would take 2 steps back and like he would still make them. So he just kind of went off. But yeah, Ukiah, kind of a disappointing Sonoma County Classic. They went 0-3, finished in last place. You know, they had lost to Petaluma. They lost to Christopher, I think, in the next round. And then, yeah, they lost to Santa Rosa in the 7th place game. But one of the big things I think that does bear mentioning is Amari Phillips Porter, who's their leading scorer at like 17, 18 points a game. He played through an injury the first night against Petaluma, and then I believe he sat the last 2 games. And then also Ukiah's big man Jackson Page didn't play on Saturday either. So, just not a great week for Ukiah, but I think we'll definitely kind of see how they bounce back this week. On Friday in that really in a big game against St. Vincent in the NBL Redwood. 2 top teams there. So. Yeah, so Petaluma should be really fun to kind of see how they do in VVAL. Couple good games coming up this week against Sonoma Valley and Vintage. So yeah, we'll see how they. I know that they have big expectations coming into this league play this year. So excited to kind of see how that plays out. I don't think we're going to spend a whole lot of time on Justin Siena and American Canyon just because our Napa correspondent Jordan Lattimore was not able to join us today. Just had something come up late. So. But yeah, Justin Siena and American Canyon coming in at 4-5. Justin, up to 9-2 on the year. They, had 2 good wins last week, and then again, moving on into VVAL play this weweek. American Canyon, I think, has been off for the last couple of weeks, just winter break and everything. So I think they're getting back to things as well this week in the VVAL. So. Yeah, I guess we'll touch on Piner and St. Vincent then to kind of close out the boys rankings here. But yeah, Piner, so they had dropped out of our rankings last week. Just I think they had lost to Annalee. It's funny because there have been a couple NBL Oak games already in December, and Piner actually is 0-2 right now in league play, which is not really I think what many people expected. But Piner, I think, had some question marks this year. They graduated a lot of guys. Matty Erickson is not playing this year. Towards ACL. But then, you mentioned Theo McDowell, who's kind of their do-it-all forward wing guy. He's kind of like their Jokic a little bit, like where he's a really good passer. He plays in the post. He can step out and shoot. He's a good rebounder. He's just a really smart, smart player. So, I think that's a good comparison for him. Is kind of Jokic-y, but
that is pretty funny now that you mention it. Because now that I'm thinking about it, yeah.
Yeah. And then Apollo Pereira went, we were talking about Andy Bai going nuclear, but there's no other way to explain what Apollo Pereira did in the second game that they had against College Park. But Piner was down almost the entire game, and Apollo Pereira had finished the game with 30 points. He scored 26 in the second half. He had 18 in the fourth quarter in overtime. Guy just absolutely, talk about the hot hand. That's about as hot a hand as you can have. But that was a crazy game in the second, in the semifinals. They beat College Park by 7 in overtime, and then yeah, they had a grinder against Cardinal Newman, in the championship game. So I know Piner has a couple of not great losses. They lost to Windsor, I think, to open league play, and then they lost to Annalee too, in the second game. But I think that last game against Newman, we go back to, dogfight and grinder and whatever you want to say about the NBL Oak, but that's a perfect example of what that's, of what this is going to be like. So yeah, and again, to your point too about Mike Erickson's team, like he always gets the most out of his players, and I think the same thing about this team. Again, maybe not like maybe not like they don't have a ton of size, but Piner always plays super hard, and they always play kind of with like a bit of a mean streak too, where it's like once they kind of smell some blood in the water, they just get right up in your jersey, and it's playing at Healdsburg, we played against them in high school, and I always hated playing against Piner because they would just get all up in your jersey, and we're always really hard to like play against. They always defended, super hard. They played really hard. So I think, this team has a lot of the same hallmarks, I'd say, of Piner teams. But I'm excited to kind of see how they fare, come league play. I don't think they have any league games this week, but heading into the next couple of weeks, it'll be kind of cool to see how things play out. But I don't know, any takeaways from seeing Piner for the first time? Because I think that was your first time seeing them on Saturday, right?
Yeah, I was pretty impressed with them. I know you mentioned like 0-2 starting league and everything like that, but I think this Sonoma County Classic performance at home, I think they're turning the page here. And despite the loss to Newman, they were leading at half. They had it. They were in it pretty much until the very end there, but Yeah, I think they're turning the page here a little bit, which is good to see. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Pioneer kind of jumping up the rankings here, maybe later on, because well, as we know, Gus, these are very fluid.
Always, every year they seem like they're always it's very fluid. But number 7, I guess we'll kind of wrap up here with St. Vincent. Yeah, the Mustangs 15-0 to start the year. I mean, again, this is the 7th spot was kind of a weird spot to fill last week, just because Windsor lost, or I'm sure I think it was Windsor lost, Pioneer lost, like all of these teams, and then it's like kind of all these guys on the outside, like the Annalees, the Carrillos, the Ukais, the Windsors. They've all kind of played each other and beat each other, so it's like there's a lot of parity kind of in that like last look group. But I mean, again, all credit to St. Vincent for for being 15-0 at this point. They haven't played the hardest schedule yet, but they're a Division 5 team, so it benefits them to play some of these smaller school teams and kind of ramp up their resume a bit. But yeah, they're looking pretty good. 3-0. They won the Waterford Winter Classic over the weekend. A couple tight wins, but I know that they were kind of looking at Big Valley Christian from Modesto as kind of being the other best team in that bracket, and they beat them by 7. So yeah, 15-0 to start the year. They haven't had too many close games, but I think that could definitely change this week. When they host Ukiah on Friday. So yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be the big tester for St. Vincent. This is kind of how things played out last year too, where they kind of breezed through non-league, the non-league schedule, and then when they got to league play, things got a bit tougher, and they struggled a bit. But that tends to happen for some small school teams like this. But again, all signs kind of point to this being one of the best St. Vincent teams in the last couple of years, and for sure the best team, I'd say, in the Tom Bonfili era. His last year, coaching. Legendary coach around here, number 6 all time in California history and wins. So yeah, it is looking like St. Vincent is going to send Bonfili out with a bang here. So but yeah, I do think they're going to fare much better in league play this year than they did last year. So I think that Ukiah St. Vincent game should kind of be an early season kind of championship tilt, just against the 2 best teams. So it should be fun to watch. But yeah, that kind of rounds out our top 7. I know that Keenan, we're going to go check out some games this week. You're going to be down at St. Vincent Ukiah on Friday. And then I know that the other big one that we have circled coming up in the next couple of weeks is going to be the Newman-Monty rematch. That game's going to be at Newman. I think it's on January 17th. So yeah, definitely. Like that. So yeah, if you're a fan of high quality, good boys basketball in Sonoma County, go check that one out. But all right, moving on real quickly over here to the girls basketball rankings. We'll kind of move through these pretty quickly, just because we do kind of want to, there's some other stuff that we want to talk about, and we have a busy week coming up this week too, a lot of work going on. So let's talk about Newman girls basketball, man. This is a team that, I mean, again, we knew that they'd be good. We knew that they'd be a top, 15, top, 10, 20 team in the state. They opened the year, I think, at number 15 in the state in Cal High's rankings, and they are, I think they should be top 10 in the state after what they did this past weekend at the SoCal Holiday Classic down in San Diego. Really good field of teams here. Corona Centennial is a Division I powerhouse from Southern California. Newman beat them by 4 to open the tournament. They then blew out Westview, a team from San Diego, by 33, something like that. But then I'd say the biggest win that they got was beating Acalane 68-45 to finish out pool play. Both of these teams were NCS Open Division teams last year. I believe Acalane's even might have beaten Newman, I think, relatively handily, I think, in preseason last year. Maybe don't quote me on that, but I think they might have played preseason last year. But for Newman to beat a state-ranked team that's higher than them, I think Acalane's was like 10 or 11 heading into this matchup, and Newman was like 14, 15. To beat them by 23 just shows what kind of team this, Newman is this year. And this is also, again, without their Brazilian, international player, Tyson Quiroz, who we believe is still ineligible. NCS, I think, has still ruled her ineligible, and I think Newman's going to be appealing that. But yeah, even without her, Newman is just absolutely cruising right now. I think that Acalane's game was Kate Schott had 10 threes, 34 points. junior guard is just having like she is exploding onto the scene this year. So I hope she gets some notice as well because, I mean, offensive firepower is kind of off the chain with this Newman team, and it's all led by Kate Schott. But yeah, Newman, not a surprise. I mean, again, Newman has been the powerhouse around here for the last decade, and this could be one of their better teams the last couple of years. So, yeah, they've been off to a great start. But yeah, what do you think about Newman's kind of start here to open the year?
Yeah, the fact that it was, yeah, that there was two huge girls tournaments going on in the state this weekend. Obviously, the SoCal Holiday Classic was one, and then closer to home here for us was the West Coast Jamboree over in the East Bay was the other one. We'll talk about that in a minute too. But the top division of the SoCal Holiday Classic, to like you said, to do what they did, Kate Schott averaged 27.5 points over those 4 games. I mean, she's turned a new leaf. She's doing what.
This is a breakout season for her, like no doubt. Like it's
which is crazy to say because we thought breakout season last year was for her,
yeah.
and when she was a sophomore, but she's
getting better.
Yeah, she's getting better and better. Obviously, this week huge tilt on Thursday, which I will be there at with our number 1 and 2 ranked teams. And then they're facing Brentwood School Los Angeles, who's also pretty good. But so Newman always plays the best. There's no doubt about that. They always have a pretty tough schedule. So Monica Myrtle, head coach over there, she's got her girls ready to play almost every game. So it's quite the start for Newman. Pretty expected, but I think some of those margin of victories in the SoCal Holiday Classic made us realize, like, oh, wait a minute, they are a lot better maybe than we thought they were. So, Newman on a roll.
Yeah, and to this point too, they only have 2 losses. One of them was a 1-point loss to Sacred Heart Cathedral Prep, which I believe is also a top 25 team in the state, and then they also lost to a St. Mary's Stockton, which is always a big Northern California powerhouse too. So, yeah, I mean, again, I think Newman is the Acalanes win is going to be huge. When it comes to NCS Open Division seedings, I mean, I think Newman is a lock, or both teams I'd say are locks for NCS Open Division. Bert's again this year. But yeah, I think this win will, when the seeding comes out, based on how things play out, but just, with Newman having not lost a league game in the last, 8 or 9 years, I don't think they're going to, that streak is going to end again this year. So with Newman probably going to be running through, maybe even honestly running the table here the rest of the way. I think that there's a very good chance that Newman probably gets seated above Acalanes for the NCS Open Division playoffs, which is going to be huge. I mean, if Newman kind of wants a chance to win an Open Division title, which is a huge accomplishment, especially up here in the North Coast section with some really good girls teams. So, all right, rattling through the next couple teams here, but you mentioned the 1-2 matchup coming up this week, but number 2 is Maria Carrillo. They've been steadily rising the last couple of weeks. They were 3 last week, I believe. They were 4 the week before that. They've won 8 in a row now. They won their division of the West Coast Jamboree. They've now won 8 in a row. They have some really quality wins over that stretch too, but really exciting game coming up this week on Thursday. It's going to be at Maria Carrillo. I mean, again, top 2 teams in the NBLO, top 2 teams in the area. Should be a good one. I mean, again, it's crazy to say because it's like, we're looking at this being like, 1-2 matchup, but it's like Newman's still probably going to be like a 15, 20 point favorite, like easily. But that just kind of shows you the caliber that Newman is. But yeah, I mean, Carrillo too, to their credit, like 2-3 to start the year. They played a very tough schedule, lots of really good teams, but they've been really clicking of late. Lena Garaskis, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right.
Yeah, you got it
right. Senior forward, she's just been absolutely killing it, averaging a double-double. She had like a 23-18 game in the West Coast Jamboree. She is, hands down, I'd say, one of the best players, girls players in the county. So yeah, Carrillo rolling right now. We'll see if they can give Newman a game. I mean, again, it's more of a testament to Newman being so good. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out on Thursday, and if maybe Newman is maybe more approachable than we thought this year. But anything on Carrillo before we kind of rattle off the rest of these, or?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, I mean, since we're talking about the margin of victories there for Newman, in their tournament, but Maria Carrillo beating Foothill by 20. That's a
Yeah.
pretty solid win for those Carrillo girls. You know, Foothill's 11-4 now. So no, I mean they've had some great wins as well. So that's a huge. I think that's a huge not only record booster, maybe seeding booster, but morale booster as well for Creo going forward. And yeah, the confidence with the Pumas after that rough start there is really blossoming there. So
Yeah, I believe Foothill, they were they're one of the better teams in the northern section. Yeah, we're kind of doing this on the fly here a little bit, but yeah, they were the NCAA or they were the Northern Section Division III runner-up last year, and then yeah, they got bounced in the second round of the state playoffs last year, but yeah, I mean, again, to your point, like it's like they've beaten some really good teams. You know, Carrillo has. I mean, even Saint Francis from Sacramento, you know, beat them by 3. Page from Arizona, and then I mean, even just before that, like. They had a showing at the, I believe it was the San Domenico tournament, I think the week prior, that might have been just before Christmas, where, I mean, they beat Mount Diablo, who I think entered that game 9-1. They beat them by 20. San Domenico, who I believe they've won a couple state titles, I think, in the last couple of years. I think they were the state runner-up in Division 4, I want to say 2 years, or like last year or something. Carrillo beat them by 7, and then they even beat Pinole Valley by 8. And Pinole Valley was the team that bounced them in the playoffs last year. So this is all over the last couple of weeks. So you know, again, this is it. It just kind of shows like, you know, they've been playing some great basketball. But this is I'm looking through Korea's schedule a bit right here. But yeah, this kind of shows you why the margin, you know, why I mentioned the margin a victory, I guess, in the Newman Carrillo game coming up this week. But Carrillo has played Acalanes this year. They played them earlier, like first couple week, you know, first week or so of the season, and they lost by 27. So, so again, just kind of shows you the teams that are really good in girls basketball are really freaking good, especially around here. So, so again,
the gap is there. Yeah,
it should be an interesting battle. But again, I think Korea is going to have to play the game of their season. You know, to have a chance to beat Newman, but you know, we'll see how it plays out.
Which honestly gets us crazy to say because they have to play him another time after that.
I know. I mean, again, Newman's a juggernaut, and no one's been able to touch them for a decade, and it just seems like that streak is going to keep rolling on this year. So, all right, next couple of schools here. Again, not a whole lot to mention about Justin Siena. Just you know, again, not a team that you know that we've seen a lot, but they have beaten some very good teams to start this year. 10-3 at the moment, looking like probably the favorite to win the VVAL, but definitely a couple of the other teams will be in the mix there. Another local team that's been playing great over the last couple of weeks is Montgomery. I think we had them ranked 3 a couple weeks ago, but you know, Korea's hot streak has kind of bumped them down a little bit. But yeah, Monty also 10-3. They had some really good wins, I'd say, over the last couple of weeks. One of their biggest wins came actually in the West Coast Jamboree this past week. They beat Eureka. Eureka is a really, really quality North Coast section Division 4, I think, Division 3, Division 4 team. So definitely a very quality win over there. And then, yeah, they also beat Casa Grande by 12, you know, a couple weeks ago. Casa Grande should be one of the better teams in the VVAL as well. So just some good wins for Monty over the last couple of weeks. You know, I think you mentioned their big 3 of who's it? Kaya Eubanks, Emily Mathis.
Big fan. I am such a big fan.
I know, big fan of the Monty girls. But yeah, I mean, I think kind of looking ahead a bit to our kind of league previews here, but you know, it's kind of Newman as kind of that upper tier team, but then it's like Montgomery, Korea, we're going to have some really, really fun games this year. So yeah, again, 2 of the better teams, you know, in the area. And I'd say again, if Newman, you know, wasn't play, or, you know, if Newman didn't exist, I'd say, you know, that the Korea Monty games, you know, would be the 2 best games of the year. But and they still should be really good, but like, you know, again, the gap is just pretty significant, I'd say, this year. So yeah. All right, number 5, we have American Canyon. They moved up a spot. They jumped Healdsburg this week. They had again, great showing at the West Coast Jamboree. They're now 11-3 on the year. Yeah, beat Clayton Valley Charter, Encinal. Yeah, they've been rolling, you know, to start the year, and again, they have a relatively similar similar strength of schedule as Healdsburg, but they've just played a couple more quality teams. Win over Mount Diablo. Antioch's pretty good. They beat Las Lomas by 14, but again, before that loss to Redwood in the championship game, they had rattled off like eight wins in a row. So American Canyon again. We mentioned Justin Santa being the top kind of favorite in that league, but I think American Canyon should also be in that conversation as well. So, Healdsburg, my Greyhounds dropped a spot this week. They only played one game, but they really showed out. They beat Cloverdale by 22. Cloverdale is I think they're 10-4 to start the year. They're one of the better small school teams I'd say in the area. And Healdsburg, kind of took it to them. So huge game from Haley Webb. I think she had like 32 points in that game. She just hit 1,000 career points like a week or so ago. So really kind of the engine that drives that team. But Healdsburg 14-2 to start the year. Definitely looking like the favorite to, the team to beat in the NBL Redwood. Healdsburg has had some really good girls teams over the last couple of years, and this could be the best one. We have not seen them play yet, so not a whole lot to really report on them, but just, based off the scores and the results we get, Haley Webb is a freaking star, man. She's like probably close to averaging a double-double, like with points and assists. Like she dishes out like 8 or 9 a game. And then, Ruby LaFew is a, really good player alongside her. So, Healdsburg come playoff time could be a dangerous team. So, and then only a couple losses again. It's a pretty quality program. So my Greyhounds, man, we're still good at something. We're still good at something. I'll just say that.
Hey, man.
Where's
Jordan? Look, man.
Look, man.
Listen, the Greyhounds, man.
Listen, sports at Healdsburg haven't been great, but girls basketball, we still got it. So, all right, number 7, rounding out our top 7. Sonoma Valley is staying put at number 7. They were down in Arizona this last week. They went 2-1 at the Cactus Jam tournament. Played a bunch of teams from all over the region. Team from Washington, Oregon, Arizona. 2-1 on the year, or 2-1 on 2-1 over the weekend. I again don't really know much about some of these teams from outside the area, but it does look like they had a good showing, and they do have some pretty quality wins again this year. They were a really talented team last year, but they graduated steadily some good players. But this year they have a 3-point win over Annalee. They've beaten Alhambra, who I know is pretty decent. So they do, they just do have some quality wins in here. And I think there was a bit of a debate, I think last week, about Annalee or Sonoma Valley, and Annalee has some quality wins this year too. They beat Casa, they beat Sonoma Valley, but they are still 8-8 on the year. They have, again, they've played a pretty tough schedule, but I don't know, putting a team with 8 losses into our top 7 rankings, just, I do kind of want to see Annalee, win a few more games, but they are talented. I think, again, when we are talking about, best teams in the NBL Open stuff, I think Annalee could be maybe just a tier below Montgomery and Creo, but again, any night, I feel like anybody can win any of those games. So it should be kind of fun to see Annalee, and Annalee could be a dark horse. You never know. Just amongst those kind of second tier, programs in there. So, all right, that's the end of our rankings. So I guess bubble teams too. Annalee, just mentioned them. Casa Grande, and they're at 6 and 7. Casa Grande has definitely struggled a bit the last couple of weeks. I think they've lost like 6 in a row, I want to say. Again, they've also played a very tough schedule, so I expect them to kind of be in the VVAL hunt too when all things are said and done. And then Cloverdale, Santa Rosa, and Sonoma Academy all kind of, making up the last of that rankings there. Also a shout out to a team that's not on this list, but LC Allen girls. They haven't played a ton of like big caliber teams, but they're 13-1 to start the year. I just kind of looking back through their other seasons, this is one of their best starts to seasons, like in years. They were 14-11 last year. Again, the 13 wins that they have now, I'm just going through this real quick. Yeah, literally so last year when they went 14-11, it's the most games they've won in the last 2 decades, and they're already 13-1 to start this year. So, and again, they haven't played a ton of great teams, I'd say, but they're a team that that I do think deserves a bit of recognition too. In the NBL Redwood, you never know. They could kind of be be an upset team here, not, knock some teams off the race or something like that. So, so shout out to LC Allen for having a great start to the year. Because, I know, again, like I mentioned with Healdsburg, it's like sports at LC Allen haven't been great, the last couple years, decades, whatever you want to say, but it's good. It's good to see some success at some of the teams at some of the schools that you don't often see that. So, big shout out, I'd say, over to LC Allen. So. All right, Keenan, anything else on our rankings, or should we kind of move on here to our league previews as things kind of get rolling here?
I think you covered pretty much everything for our rankings this time around. Again, keep in mind, folks, these are very fluid. So if you see multiple changes a week, do not be alarmed. But yeah, no, let's head into kind of our previews, if you will. Let's start with the boys side of things. The NBL Oak, we kind of touched on it earlier, but Monty still seems like the favorite. Sorry, Arrow, but that's the way we're going there. But like we said earlier, no easy games at all. Going to be a dogfight every night. Doesn't matter if it's Monty playing, a team like Santa Rosa or whatnot. There's going to be no easy games in the NBL Oak. It was kind of the same last year. Last year, obviously, we were treated to 4 renditions of Windsor Cardinal Newman. Obviously, Gus, you weren't there last year, but yeah, 4 renditions of Windsor Cardinal Newman. So I don't think we'll be getting that this year, but regardless, still going to be a dogfight every night. Newman, obviously, as we've been talking about, is much improved. Well, I wouldn't say improved, but I would say definitely exceeding expectations early on from what we thought of them, for sure. Pioneer, obviously, we expect them to get back in the mix. I think they are going to get back in the mix. But yeah, I think as of now, Monty still has claim to the favorite to take the NBL Oak title, but it's anybody's night. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see an undefeated championship or champion this year. I'd say in the NBL Oak. Although, again, we say that, and Monty could probably just run the table or something at this point. But I know that we're not going to get 4 renditions of Windsor Newman again, which was great last year, and I think every game was close. But there is a chance that we get 4 renditions of Montgomery Newman this year. 2 games in the league, a championship game in the league tournament, and then again, they're both Division II programs, so they could meet in the playoffs as well. So we will see. But definitely excited to kind of see how things shake out in the NBL Oak again. Top league around here, and it should be a fun race again. But yeah, again, I'd say everybody around here kind of has that game circled. January 17th rematch against Cardinal Newman. 7:30. It's going to be again at Newman. So keep that one circled on your calendars that are
get to Newman
fans.
early. Get to Newman
early. Exactly. Yeah, again, the Newman Monty rivalry has been awesome. In boys basketball, just in Sonoma County. So this year, kind of getting that back up again. After Newman was the better team last year, and then Monty was the better team year before. So definitely some close games coming up. Closing out this year. So. All right, moving on to I guess we've talked mostly about NBL Oak girls too. We've talked about Newman being clear favorite. Again, I think they're going for their 9th or 10th straight league title. But Monte Carrillo both look to be really really strong this year. One of a second tier team, and I think Antley could also probably be in that conversation for second tier teams when it's all said and done. So I'd say we've kind of touched on the NBL quite a bit. So I don't know, anything else you wanted to add about them or.
No. If you learn anything about us on this podcast today, you know that we like to separate everything into tiers, right? We have the top tiers, then we have a second tier, then we have the third tier. No. I think you kind of hit it on the head when we were doing our rankings about the girls in the NBL Oak and how that race might shape out to be. We also kind of touched on the NBL Redwood a little bit as well. Ukiah St. Vincent, that game on Friday is going to be huge early season indicator as where the race might go. Rancho could possibly play a little spoiler there. I know Healdsburg's a little bit down from last year. Obviously losing Sam Van Huvel is a big loss for sure for your Greyhounds, Gus. Maybe you need to suit up and get back out there for Healdsburg this year.
I don't think
yeah,
I have any. I don't have any eligibility left, unfortunately, but or else I totally would.
Well, I mean, hey, we're seeing what happens in college football. It could possibly trickle down to
Yeah,
basketball.
grad transfer can be
grad
high
transfer.
school to grad transfer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it seems like the NBL Redwood's going to go through Ukiah or St. Vincent this year. Ukiah, the defending champions. Obviously, it all depends on their stud Omari Phillips Porter, how long he's going to be healthy for or out for. Jackson Page didn't play in against Santa Rosa because he was at the Tri-County football All-Star game that was happening on Saturday as well at Casa Grande. For Ukiah, I think it's all about staying healthy, right? But St. Vincent has all the momentum, all the confidence in the world. So Friday is going to be a big early season test to really show where the Redwood league race is going.
For sure, 100%. And then same kind of thing with the girls. I guess we've touched on a bit about the NBL Redwood, kind of hierarchy right now. But yeah, Healdsburg kind of is looking kind of like the clear team to beat at the moment. They are already 2-0 in league play as well. I think they beat who have they beaten? Yeah, they beat Ukiah by 23, and they beat Ukiah is up in the Oak this year. That's not right. So they beat Rancho by 19 and they beat Windsor by 4. So I know it was Rancho and Windsor. It was Windsor and Healdsburg were the two better teams in the NBL Redwood last year, but I know Windsor hasn't gotten off to the best start, but they still do have the returning co-league MVP in Isabella. I believe it's Tavalachi. I hope that's right.
Yeah.
Some pronunciations here, but I mean, again, Windsor is 3-11, not the start that they wanted, but again, they played a pretty tough preseason schedule as well, and I do think that they're going to fare a bit better once they kind of start playing some league teams again this year. So we'll see how that goes, but it is looking like my Greyhounds are still the team to beat over there. So love to see that.
I will say, Gus, because the Greyhounds pulled off the double last year of the league title and then the league tournament title. Mm-hmm. When was the last time they would have done that in back-to-back years if they pull it off again this year?
You're testing even my knowledge here, so I can't even say that. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it would be cool to kind of see Newman or to see Healdsburg complete that. So who knows? We'll see. And then I guess wrapping up here, I guess with the VVAL a little bit. We're I mean, again, it is funny because we're kind of like doubling up on a lot of these things here that we talked about during the in the rankings. But Petaluma, Justin Siena, looking like kind of the two top teams. Those games are going to be really exciting. And let me double check when they play each other. So I believe it's a couple weeks here. I think it's towards the end of the first rotation of league play. So first game. It's Petaluma at Justin Siena in the first meeting on January 16th, and then they finish out league play as host to Justin Siena, Petaluma, on February 1st. So those are kind of the big games I think that we have circled for sure in the next couple weeks here. But I mean, American Canyon, I'm curious to kind of see how they fare, but they should kind of probably be up there in the mix there. And then, Vintage probably on the fringe. Maybe, even Sonoma Valley, I think could be one of these teams that could kind of play spoiler some nights as well. I mean, Will Burrell is a really talented player. A senior forward for them. I know he's getting some looks from colleges and stuff too. So, when you have a player of that caliber, it's like you're competitive in a lot of games. So. But I do think it's the Petaluma Justin Siena kind of up at the top there with American Canyon, maybe, hanging out as like a, possible second tier kind of team. But, and then girls in the VVAL, Justin Siena looking strong. American Canyon also, playing pretty well. At this point, I think those are kind of going to be the top two teams. And then Casa Grande, Sonoma Valley, I think kind of be those sneaky kind of dark horse teams that could be in the league race, when it's all said and done. So I know last year the VVAL championship was kind of crazy, where or the tournament at least was, where it was like
tournament was nuts.
Tournament was crazy. It was like American Canyon and Sonoma were like the two top teams, and then everything kind of flipped, like going like into the championship and there were upsets, and so
Well,
Yeah,
well, keep in mind that the regular season league title race ended in a three-way
that's
tie.
right. That's right.
So
That's
that
right. Yeah,
screwed up all the seedings for the tournament, and then everything just went ballistic from there. And Casa
yeah.
ended up winning the tournament, but it was one of those crazy league title races, Gus, that we've come to expect more and more often from
It's
Sonoma
true.
County
It is
leagues.
true. Yeah, I know we are spoiled. Like it does seem like it's like every league race around here. It does come down to like the last couple games. So definitely fun to see. But expecting that again this year. So yeah, so that about does it for this week's pod. Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of hoops. I think this is a pretty fun time of the year, I'd say, for all of us. Now we're moving into a new year. League races are going to start heating up here in the next couple of weeks, which I think is the most fun part of the season, I'd say. So yeah, we kind of know the lay of the land at this point. And yeah, it's again, like we kind of mentioned, it's like this is going to be really shape up to be some really exciting races all across the area this year. So yeah, and then in the coming weeks, keep an eye out for again for like a similar soccer preview. Looking across the area at MBL Oak and Redwood and Vival as kind of league play hits gets up and rolling here. And yeah, lots more basketball coverage coming your way too, and then wrestling too also is going to start heating up as well. So um Keenan, anything else to kind of add to the people here before we send them on their way?
No, just I think you mentioned it. Packed January slate. Excited for it. And fully, like we said at the beginning of the pod, fully into winter sports season. So we're moving right along here in the school year, and I hope everyone, like we said, we hope everyone had a great holiday season, and now we're back to sports. So here we go.
Sports. Yep. Also, programming note too. I think we're going to be doing pods every other week at this point.
That's
There
fair.
is
Yep.
for football, it makes sense to do them every week and talk about last week's games and stuff. Well, I think with basketball, it kind of makes sense to kind of take a breath after every week and look at things every 2 weeks and stuff. So yeah, we'll kind of be coming to you every other week here, for the rest of the winter sports season, and then we'll see about spring. I know spring is crazy busy, just with so many sports going on and stuff. But yeah, it could be fun to kind of keep the pod going in the springtime too. But we'll see. We'll kind of play it by ear here. So
We'll see. Week by
I don't
week.
want to. I know. I don't want to commit to something like that future us has to deal with here. So
I know.
we'll
I know.
we'll keep it simple for now. But anyway, that being said, yeah, thanks for tuning in again. Happy New Year to everyone who's watching. Here's to a great 2024, and we'll catch you guys in a couple weeks.